Now, on to our next keynote presentation of the day, where we will dive into another global study conducted by Forrester on behalf of Microsoft Advertising this time, on the new Workday Consumer and other emerging personas. Please welcome Pablo Lausirica, Regional Sales Director, Western Europe of Microsoft Advertising, who will introduce Asha Dinesh, Senior Consultant at Forrester EMEA Consulting Group.
Thanks a lot.
Over to you.
So good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today with you all. So just a quick introduction of myself. I'm leading the Western Europe team for Microsoft Advertising. And today I'm just going to do an intro of the next speaker. Now, we will be talking about how the consumer habits have changed, as well as what is the attention economy, what is our span of attention, which we will follow up with a panel later on. But allow me to introduce very quickly a recent personal story. And as a matter of fact, I'm searching for a new car as we are expanding the family. Now, Tuesday last week, it was lunchtime, I was in front of my computer, and I was grabbing a quick lunch in between meetings. And when I was just about to jump into the next call, I got this phone call. I pick it up, and there was an insurance car company trying to sell their service. So let's pause there for a second. Was the company reaching out the right audience? I might argue that yes. Was the company reaching out with the right message or the right product or service? I would say so. But was that the right timing? 100% no. In fact, that irritated me because my span of attention in that precise moment was near to zero. And so the key here is that when we talk about attention, we define it as being mentally available to process a message. And the research that Forrester has done, and will be shared in a minute now, it's actually proving how, after the pandemic, we have changed many habits. We are, working more remote. We are more connected than ever. And that brings new opportunities to engage with the audience, and also understanding new opportunities to understand where the attention is on the audience. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Asha from Forrester, who will be talking more about this research. Asha, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Pablo, for the introduction. Hi, everyone. Great to be here today. So my name is Asha Dinesh. I'm a senior consultant with Forrester Research. And so I'm going to talk about the Workday Consumer. But before that, for those of you who are not aware, Forrester Research is a business and technology research company. We work with business and tech leaders to develop customer-obsessed vision, strategies, and execution for growth. I work on the custom research team as part of Forrester Consulting, and in my role, I work with our subject matter experts on the analyst team to conduct commissioned research on behalf of clients who want to deep dive into some of the subjects that Forrester covers. So today, as I said, I'm going to talk through the results of the study we conducted on behalf of Microsoft. But before that, I wanted to give you some context and background to the study. You may be familiar with Forrester's annual predictions reports, where we look at the big kind of coming trends in the business and consumer world over the next 12 months. And I've just pulled out two highlights from our recent Future of Work and consumer behavior predictions reports. These both statements really highlight the shockwaves that the pandemic has sent across our working lives and our consumption habits, as we all know, but also that a lot of these changes are here to stay. So while our work and personal lives have been moving online to digital over the last decade or so, the pandemic really accelerated this shift. Remote working is here to stay in some form or another. Forrester calls this the era of anywhere work. And as consumers, we have increasing expectations for digital delivery of the products and services that we need. And even the more digitally hesitant consumers expect to continue some of the behaviors they picked up during the pandemic. So it was in this context that Microsoft commissioned us to look at two questions. So what consumer behaviors have emerged from this collision of work and personal life during the pandemic, and how well brands have adapted their online strategies? So to explore this, we conducted two global online surveys. The first was a consumer survey with over 5,000 respondents across 11 countries who were aged 18 or over, employed, and had a PC purchase in the last 6 months. We also conducted a business survey of over 1,000 marketing and advertising decision makers at brands, director and VP level for most of them. So what did we find? So this is our big headline finding. Say hello to the Workday Consumer. So this collision of work and personal life we've talked about has led to the rise of this new type of consumer persona. And who is the Workday Consumer? So this is a consumer persona that embodies the new modern worker. They typically mix work and personal tasks during their work time, work flexibly from home or company or client offices, and are engaged on PC at key touch points across their buyer journeys. And in our study, 62% of respondents told us that they regularly research or purchase products and services during their work time. We also found that this persona is here to stay. 44% of respondents expect that the number of online purchases they make during their work time will increase in the next 12 months. And let's dig into a bit more the kind of data that led to this finding. In our consumer survey, 60% of respondents consider their work and personal tasks to be equally important during their work time. And in fact, during their work time, when they make their to-do list, they have both work and personal tasks on there. So they're very much in this productive mindset during this time, and they apply that attitude to both their work tasks and their personal tasks. And I should note, we used a pretty flexible definition of work time. We asked the respondent to consider their specific work hours, so it's not the kind of, not everyone works 9 to 5, so we asked them to consider their own specific work times. So this is their definition of their work time and what they do within that. But going back to the key finding, this productivity mindset is applied to both work and personal life, right? And the personal tasks here go beyond just picking up the kids or cooking dinner or kind of doing the house tasks that you need. It goes into purchasing as well, researching and purchasing as well. And what does this mean for advertisers? Well, it kind of upends the well-planned customer decision journey that we're used to. And we'll come to some of the kind of reactions to brands that brands had in the study in a minute. And we looked at exactly what they're considering buying, right? We had a list of about 20 categories, and these came out in the top 10 of categories that the respondents were purchasing, researching or purchasing during the work time. These fall into the broad verticals of travel, financial services, home improvements, and leisure. So all areas that we think of as high consideration purchases require a bit more kind of thinking and researching than, say, groceries or everyday items. Separately, we also asked what devices they prefer for all of these categories in terms of research and purchase. And we see that there's some overlap in the categories that came out as top for PC, as you can see. So moving into the second question that we were asking, how have advertisers adapted to these changes? And this kind of gives it away, but we found that there are some gaps in brand strategies. But before we get to that, I just want to pull out this kind of thinking from our Forrester research, which shows that consumers really have more choices than ever before. They must make more decisions more quickly and taking in more information than ever before. And they can't make those decisions without emotion. They rely on emotion to help them consider options, develop preferences, and then act on them. And this means for brands, they need to look beyond the typical methods for understanding consumer personas that focus on, say, demographics or past purchases or online activity, and really try and decode the emotion and mindset of the buyer to connect with them. But in our survey, we found that brands are still focusing on those traditional characteristics like demographics or past purchases when looking at target consumer personas. The majority of brand respondents were not confident that their brands could develop target personas using the more nuanced cues like mindset or activity. They were also not confident that they could use the right mix of digital channels for each type of persona. So there's some kind of gap there, as you can see. And we took a deep dive into what are the challenges driving this. At the strategic level, we see the main challenges are linked to data and insights. So the top challenge here is around driving decision-making with customer insights. We also see familiar challenges around attribution and determining the most valuable channels for ad spend. We dug even deeper into data-specific challenges, and we see the top three being around balancing that privacy requirement with personalization, creating a single view of the customer, and ensuring they future-proof their use of insights, given regulatory developments and consumer attitudes to privacy. So these are some of the challenges the firms are facing. But it's not all bad news, right? So our final headline here is that brands in the study did indicate that they are shifting their strategies towards consumer expectations to try and adapt. They recognize that they must adapt their strategies in line with preferences and behavior changes. So we asked them, what are the top consumer trends that your organization will prioritize when you're looking to develop new or update your existing strategies? And they're really looking to provide that seamless digital mobile experience that consumers seek, as well as the relevant content they look for. And they're mindful of the purchase journeys that can hop across channels, and also the privacy expectations they have to bear in mind as well. But what's interesting is that the collision of work and life comes up here as well. In the top 5, just under half of brand respondents recognize the fact that purchase journeys now combine both work and personal devices. And then we asked them what they're planning to do to address these changes in consumer behavior. And brand respondents noted that they're focused on upgrading capabilities, tools, and budget. There's a real need for specialist knowledge, both internally and with agency partners. And there's a need to embed MarTech where they can to create those integrated campaigns across touchpoints and handle future shifts in consumer behavior. And then we went a click further and we asked them what are their kind of plans on key digital channels. And it's not surprising, a majority of respondents said they were planning to increase ad budgets for these channels during the next 12 months. So search, social media, video, online display, and influencers are all kind of getting increased budgets over the next 12 months. And the good news here is that we see brands are starting to adapt their strategies, but there's still work to do in terms of updating kind of consumer persona design assumptions and finding the right mix of channels based on consumer preferences. So always start with the consumer, as we say at Forrester. So that really brings us to the end. It's just a quick overview of our key findings. Sorry for the shameless plug, but we go into a lot more in kind of detail and insights in the thought leadership paper we created with Microsoft, where we also provide more detailed recommendations on what advertisers can do in line with these trends. And yeah, the link is here. So thank you for your time. And I think we may be taking some questions. Pablo as well.
Do you have any question for Asha? Si alguien tiene una pregunta, si quelqu'un a une question. Oui. Give it a try. I think now it's good.
Is that better? Hello.
Thank you.
Laura from Essence.
Hi.
So your research is based on behaviours within, say, in the COVID working from home environment. I think we have to acknowledge that we're talking about a very affluent audience, because people that work from home are the privileged. They're not in the gig economy. They are professional services and own their homes. So 2 questions for you. Do you feel that this audience is any different to any other affluent audience group? Because they seem to have very similar behaviours and attitudes. My second question is as well, women working from home are 60% more likely to take on care duties and household chores. So I'm really feeling the strain. Was gender ever sort of looked at in your report as well?
Yeah, so the first question, we didn't, you're right, it's kind of a more specific subset of consumer audiences, right? Slightly more affluent, specific kind of working environments and styles. So we can't necessarily compare it to other sort of affluent audiences just because it's sort of a time in this kind of time of the field work, you know, as we said, during COVID pandemic. The second question around the gender, so we did cut the data by gender. We noticed that there wasn't a massive difference in terms of getting tasks done. So one thing I don't know at the top of my head if there was difference in the number of tasks women and men were competing, but the kind of attitude to getting tasks done for work and for personal life was pretty similar across that kind of gender breakdown. So I hope that answers one of your questions.
Yeah, I think it probably was more forced on women to do more tasks.
Yeah.
Is what the research is showing anyway.
Yeah.
Thank you, Laura. Any other question? No. Thank you very much, Asha, for introducing us to this new persona and remind us how lazy we are during daytime, work time. Yeah, no,
Thank you.
take the honor.